Good morning. Welcome back to Work in Progress. This is the second session of today's one-day event. Thank you again to Real-Time Recruitment and Version 1, who are major sponsors supporting the event. What a great first session, by the way, and thank you to Waypoint and Toby and the team for partnering on that. So, the world of work is changing, or it has changed, hasn't it? It's more like the new now. It's not in the new normal. It's still kind of evolving. Long may it continue in many ways. So from the future of workspaces, the ways that we're working, through to future jobs and talent planning, commitments to diversity, not just diversity, by the way, but inclusion, because there's no point having diversity without inclusion, and through to meeting the hiring demands of the tech industry. So that's what we're hearing about now, is the demands of the tech industry. Where do we go? In finding talent, where do we go in making sure that that talent comes through and is sustained in organizations? So look forward to the theme of the event, which is around, obviously, the hiring demands of that industry.
And to hear an audience at the MAC, if any of you have any questions for the audience or the speakers or panelists that we have here, be sure to WhatsApp us your messages as you're acting as our voice today. So now, if you're looking to explore the realities of sourcing, hiring, and retaining tech talent, both nationally and globally, then this session is for you. Our partners for this session is Young Enterprise Northern Ireland. Young Enterprise Northern Ireland is a leading business education charity. Each year, Young Enterprise Northern Ireland helps over 90,000 young people aged from 4 to 25 across Northern Ireland to explore their entrepreneurial potential with support from volunteer mentors. Thank you, Young Enterprise Northern Ireland.
Yeah, awesome. I've worked with Young Enterprise for ages, doing stuff in schools with them and helping. What they do is something that's really needed across Northern Ireland and across the whole of the UK, in a sense, and in driving that innovation and driving that enterprise mentality and getting people to better understand about the employability process. So Carol, Young Enterprise, thank you very much for your support. Something that's quite exciting that me and Carol have got coming up, which we're going to launch in a video in a few minutes as well. But first of all, I wanted to introduce you to, before any panel or anything else, I want you to introduce you to Louise Brogan. She was going to be here in person, but circumstances mean she can't be. And magic of this new world that we're in, it doesn't mean that she's cancelled, because she's going to join us on Zoom. So we don't have to worry about her not being here. Louise works with entrepreneurs, SMEs, professionals looking to raise their profile through LinkedIn. We've asked her to kind of explain a little bit about how companies can use their LinkedIn profile, which is their company profile, one would assume, to help attract and retain talent. So let's hope that we can be joined by Louise now, live from New York, or maybe Belfast, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. There she is, Louise. Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person, but yes, I am live from Newton Abbey.
It's just as sexy. It's all right. It's okay. I probably shouldn't use the word sexy in work, but never mind. So, Louise, we will obviously, you should have SlideShare all set up and ready to go.
Yes.
Really interested in knowing a little bit more about LinkedIn and the company profile, because that's something I've always taken for granted. So hopefully there's HR people listening in that can benefit from this short 13.5-minute session. I'm only joking. Off you go, Louise, sorry.
All right, excellent. Let me just share my screen. Okay, the joys of tech. All right, Alistair, can you see my slides?
All good.
All right, excellent. Okay, so I want to talk to you about LinkedIn company pages and the part that they play in attracting and retaining top talent. That's a bit of a mouthful. So for those who don't know me, my name is Louise Brogan. I'm a LinkedIn consultant and trainer. I live here in Northern Ireland, but I work with organizations, clients, companies from all over the world, really. I have a podcast called LinkedIn with Louise, a YouTube channel, which I'm very proud of. It's my little baby. I put up regular little videos on how to use LinkedIn for business, if you want to go and check those out. I'm a speaker, and I'm also very passionate about supporting small businesses. And as part of that, I'm a Small Business Britain champion for the second year in a row with Small Business Saturday. Anyway, enough about me. For those of you who aren't entirely comfortable or familiar with LinkedIn, when you log into LinkedIn as an individual, you have your LinkedIn personal profile. So for me, that is Louise Brogan. I also then have a LinkedIn company page, and that's called LinkedIn with Louise. So the difference being, and what we want to talk about today, is how you can really leverage your company page as a place to attract talent and showcase the people that you have, as well as if you are in the business of going off and finding top talent, where you can find those people through their company page and how they're all connected. So the company page is very different. The content, unfortunately, the content you share on your company page gets about 1/10 of the view of the number of people who will view the content that you share on your personal profile. But we can change that by actually engaging our employees and understanding how LinkedIn works as a platform. For me, LinkedIn is very much about building business relationships. It is not somewhere that you simply go on and broadcast what you're up to in your career or as an organization or as a company. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people actually seem to stay in that zone, that they will go on and they will just simply share, we're hiring, and that's it. They're not really using everything that LinkedIn has for you as a platform. So if you looked at your LinkedIn company page from the point of view as a member, LinkedIn calls the people who have LinkedIn accounts LinkedIn members, by the way, because we're all like part of some big club or membership. So what do people see on your company page when they go there? Have you ever looked at it from the member's point of view? Are you using all the tools that LinkedIn has for you? So there's so many things, it's crazy. There's talent pages, there's showcase pages, you can post jobs, you have the life tab, the people tab, you can find the alumni at the university you used to go to. You can see who lives in the same city as you, works at that place. You can see if you have LinkedIn Premium, and we will have questions at the end. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can see when that company has last hired, who are their interesting hires, who are the top talent that they have recruited, who are people of note that work in that organization, and which department in the company is the biggest, fastest growing sector. You can share events on there, including like this one today. You can put your webinars on there. And most importantly, are you using your existing employees as part of your talent recruiting and attracting regime? All right, so I've got a few little slides to share in terms of what it looks like on your LinkedIn page. So this is a job alert. So you can create jobs, and as a small businesses actually can go in and create jobs for free. You can also pay. As with everything online, there are free options and there are paid options. You can do a lot with the free version of LinkedIn. We're not going to talk today particularly about going down the route of the paid versions and the paid opportunities, but you can create jobs. As a person viewing this company page, I could go in and create a job alert. So LinkedIn will notify me. So if there's a large organization, maybe you want to go and work for one of the top accountancy firms, you could go to their company pages and you could set job alerts for whenever they are going to share new roles that match what you're doing. So maybe we talked about diversity and inclusion earlier, maybe you're a diversity and inclusion specialist and you want to go and work in a financial services company. So you could target the top 10 that you want to work for and then go and create a job alert based on the keywords that you want to be found for. So Tech Data was just a company that I picked. They are based in Florida. They have 2,261 job openings. So you can search on there for job titles and you can look for keywords. LinkedIn is a big user of keywords. And in fact, this is why when you Google someone, other search engines are available. Their LinkedIn profile is usually the top result because Google and other search engines love LinkedIn because of the volume of content that is created on there every day. So companies, organizations, individuals are sharing content on there every single day, keeping it fresh. And if you know about like SEO and websites, the way we get people to our websites is by sharing fresh, relevant content on a regular basis. Well, LinkedIn has got that going on because of all the so many organizations, from the Wall Street Journal to the BBC to the Guardian to Allen and Overy to people like Louise Brogan posting content every single day. That is why search engines love LinkedIn so much, and it's why it's really important for you to stand out by actually creating content on your company page. So that shows here recently posted jobs, and you can click on see all jobs. We don't want to look at 2,261 jobs, but it's knowing that these tools are out there on your company page. A much overlooked option on your company page as well is, what is life like at your firm? So if you look on this here, you see home, across the top, you've got home, about, posts, jobs, life, people, insights, events, and videos. So life, what is life like at Tech Data? And there's 3 options. You can set this up for your organization. Now, there are some limitations if you have, if you are a company with maybe 6 or 7 people, it's completely different. So you need to have a certain number of employees who are attached to your company page on LinkedIn to get access to some of these options. However, if you're trying to place somebody in a large firm, you can go in and you can look at life at Tech Data, student engagement, global life cycle management. And at the bottom of this screen, you will see meet our leaders. So let's go and see what the CEO of Tech Data is like. Rich Hume, is he active on the platform? Is he engaging on LinkedIn? Do I want to connect with him or follow him? And if you are interested in going to work at this company, or I do think, look at the top 10 companies that you want to go and work with, not just one, but why don't you follow the CEOs or follow the chief technical officer or follow the president for the Europe, Middle East and Africa region? Pick your people and follow them and make a point of going into LinkedIn to see how they posted content. Can you make yourself visible in front of these people? But also, if you are the company, are you training your staff? And do they understand how important their LinkedIn profile looks and their behavior on LinkedIn? During the pandemic, there were a couple of people that I came across on LinkedIn who were posting content that I am pretty sure their senior team would have been pretty annoyed about if they'd seen it. So remember that you have got to represent your company in a professional manner. LinkedIn is a professional social media site, and they do not like people who behave in an unprofessional way. Another thing as the company page is, who are your people? Now, if you go and look at an organization, so this is Zurich Insurance, and you click on people, you can say, okay, well, I want to find everybody who lives in the UK. Or maybe I went to the University in Barcelona, look, 326 people. If you click on any of these options, those people will appear below. So you can go and connect with those people. And maybe it turns out that somebody else went to the University of Barcelona and studied software engineering in the same area that you did. Then you connect with that person. You ask them, what's it like to work at Zurich? And this is how LinkedIn really works. And this is what a lot of people don't actually realize, how easy it is to build your network and build your profile on there. So how can you attract top talent on your company page? Number one, share your company brand story. Hopefully you understand your brand story, and what do you stand for? Who are you trying to attract? What's the company all about? What makes it appealing to someone to want to go to work there? Highlight your employees. Who are the people who work for you? Don't just think about the C-suite. Think about the people who are doing the graduate entry jobs, about the senior team, the middle management. How do you want to represent your company on LinkedIn? Train and engage your team to promote the company. And this is really, honestly, it's such a simple thing to do. But if you can bring in someone like me, for example, to train your team, and you post brilliant content on your company page like 3 times a week, just get some training in your team, whether it's the C-suite or the middle management or the grassroots level, that they can take that content and start conversations about it in the LinkedIn newsfeed to get more visibility for your company. I love this Colt Technology Services. If you have not heard of this company, go and follow them. They do LinkedIn brilliantly. They create webinars, they have events, they highlight their staff. And this is an example of a new member. So Gervais was the country manager for France, and they literally are introducing you to her. And I'll tell you one thing about LinkedIn and the network on LinkedIn is that they love a good news story. They celebrate hires, they celebrate wins, they celebrate awards, and they love a positive story. So use the collateral that you have, which is your people. Here's another screenshot of Cisco. So you've got 4.2 million followers. They did a short video, it was 10 minutes, and they literally interviewed their staff to say, what's it like to actually to work at Cisco, using their team as their material. Colt Technology Services. So my contact is Jake here. There's their life panel at Colt Technology Services, inclusion and diversity, sales and marketing. So you can decide what it is that you want to highlight about life at your organization. So you've got to use the tools that you have. You can also recommend the content to your employees. And if you can't think of what to say about your industry, and honestly, in tech, you should never be short of what to say. It will also offer you content suggestions. What's trending on LinkedIn? What are people talking about in your industry? Bring your team in as advocates for your company. So Michelle Bakker is the IBM Data Solutions Architect at Tech Data in Europe. And I picked him because you can see here, he's got the branding behind him here in his cover photograph. And he's got the company logo here, and he's talking about what goes on at the company in his personal newsfeed. So they have spent time investing in their company page and also their employees and their staff. Very whistle-stop tour, Alistair. I do think it's time to start looking at your company page in a new light. It's not just about putting out, here's what we do, here's what we do, here's what we do. Let's engage our team, make it interesting, give people a reason to follow us, and attract that top talent. If you do want to find out more about how I work with organizations and companies, then please reach out at louisebrogan.com. I think we have time for some questions, Alistair.
Thank you, Louise. Before we go on, I'm just going to apologize if anyone can see the live feed of chat that was coming in from some idiot, if I'll be totally honest, making comments at the bottom of the screen. I'm not too sure if you'd have seen that at home or we're just seeing it in the room here. But apologies to anyone reading those type of comments. Certainly they won't be employable because of the comments they were making there. So we'll find out who they are if we can. So Louise, quick question that leaks back obviously to the first session. How is LinkedIn kind of reflecting this kind of hybrid remote working environment that we're now living in? Are they innovating in a way, in any sense?
Yes. So interestingly, they have just brought out a new feature for company pages that you can say, what kind of jobs you have, if they are hybrid or remote. I posted a job myself, and I was hiring somebody about 4 months ago. And when you create a job posting, you can literally say, what is this, a remote job? Is it a hybrid job, or is it an in-person job? And then when someone applies for those jobs, you can filter out, oh, I only want to work remotely. So it works really well for the company and also for the individual. As an employer recruiting on LinkedIn, if you have not used LinkedIn Jobs before, it's excellent because you can put filters in that somebody, everyone can apply if they see the job. But if they don't meet your criteria, so your minimum criteria is that they have 2 years of software development experience. If they don't meet that, they don't even get through to the filter for you to see their applications. So you only see applications that actually meet the criteria you've set inside the LinkedIn job function, which is really good, I think.
Niamh, anything from your end? Obviously, do you use LinkedIn yourself?
Yes, I do. I recently put out looking for a job, and LinkedIn was really, really beneficial. It was a brilliant platform for being able to hire that member of staff. And also it was great having that filter system and, getting the CVs directly sent to you. And it was also brilliant to actually take a look at their LinkedIn profiles and seeing how active they are.
Yes.
So I found it very beneficial.
Yeah. And like, obviously, Louise, from your end, what one thing should every single employer be doing in terms of, obviously, say for their next role? What's the first thing they should consider when posting it onto LinkedIn?
Make sure that your company page is portraying the organization in a way that's actually attractive to people who are looking for work, because I think it's a bit of a it's the people who are looking for work have the benefit of having more choice because of all those hybrid options and remote options. I mean, you're not limited by where you want to work. So make sure that your company page portrays the company in the best light possible, and it's active as well. So important. And then try and get the members of your organization who already work for you, get them up to speed on how to use LinkedIn. I think what Niamh said was really interesting there, because people do go and look not just at your profile, but your activity on LinkedIn. So make sure you are behaving in a professional manner, because this is a professional networking site.
Absolutely. And obviously reiterating again, whoever was making those silly comments at the bottom of the screen, if anyone can see them at home, well, they're not just being professional, but it'll impact on them down the line if that's the approach they've got with their work, home life anyway. Louise, thank you ever so much for your time. I want, obviously, the audience in the room to give a big round of applause to Louise. I'd have loved you to be in here, but we know it's not possible.
I'm so sorry I couldn't make it in person.
Thank you very much. Just before we now go on to the panel, so panelists, obviously, just in about 30 seconds, if you jump up and join us on stage. There's going to be a few folk join us on Zoom as well, and I'll explain that in a minute. I just want you to watch this quick video about a new program called Exporting Founders. Welcome back. Thank you ever so much, Louise. It's great to look at things from a fresh approach, and I think that's what we're all having to do. It's a busier marketplace as well, isn't it? It's like there's more people out there looking for work. It's harder for recruiters and harder for organizations to find talent. So I'm just going to let into the room on Zoom. So we have with us, obviously in person, we have Claire Nixon, who's the Director of Real-Time Recruitment. Thank you, Claire. We have with us in person as well, Lorna McAdoo, who's the Director of Operations and Business Development for Northern Ireland at Version 1. So thank you, Lorna, for joining us as well. Now we're going to introduce, obviously through Zoom, we have Dave Graham, who will be looking at the conversation around finding tech talent internationally. Dave's based over in the US, and he's a tech advocate lead for Dell Technologies Office of Research. We also have Ollie Monks, who's the Visa Program Manager for Tech Nation. Hello, Ollie, lovely to see you. And Claire, who I work with quite a bit. Awesome to see you, Claire, who's the co-founder of Table Crowd Talent. So Claire connects startup passionate talent with London's most exciting, innovative tech companies and startups. So we're trying to kind of bridge the gap between what's happening here in Northern Ireland with Claire and Lorna, what's happening obviously maybe nationally, obviously with Ollie and Claire from Table Crowd Talent, and then Dave, who's our US voice of reason, I'd like to think. Dave, your background looks awesome. Is that real life, or you just got like an amazing filter there?
Oh, it's as real as I can make it, my friend. So
excellent. I hope that's not beer you're drinking. It is a coffee, isn't it?
It is 6:30 in the morning.
Excellent. It's 6:30. It's 6. Are you in Boston at the moment? Then I take it.
I just flew back from Ireland on Friday. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So Dave kind of flirts between Ireland and the US. So obviously you have that connection as well. So it's great to have you all with us today. Let's start with Claire, who's in the room, and me and Neve will be asking all the questions. Claire, how busy is the tech recruitment sector at the moment in Northern Ireland, Belfast, maybe more specifically?
Yeah, it's absolutely booming. I'm sure everyone is aware at the moment. I mean, I've been in the tech sector in Belfast for 10 years, and this is the busiest I've ever seen it. Job announcements in 2021 galore. Recently, ASOS 180 jobs, Agio 100 jobs, WorkRise 150 jobs. It's just big announcements. PwC 800, and everyone's going, well, you know, where are we getting these people from? So it's a busy time, but it's great at the same time. The opportunities for people here are immense. You know, so graduates coming out of university have their pick. People looking to move jobs, they've got so much choice. So it's a great time. I mean, I think I saw a stat 26% of our workforce are now employed in the tech sector, which is really quite unbelievable and growing. So it's very busy and very active scene at the moment, but I mean, it's a good thing.
Lots of indigenous tech companies, lots of FDIs, not enough candidates, I'm guessing. And obviously, is that something that you're always struggling with, obviously from the tech side?
I mean, it's the same. It's not just tech, you know, everyone I speak to, you know, there is a skills shortage. So, you know, it is the case, but we would tend to focus on, okay, well, what makes your company different, and what is it specifically that you could offer a candidate that others can't? It's not impossible, but you've got to find out what your unique selling point is for the market. And you will find your people, but it is extremely competitive. There's no getting away from that.
100%. Over to yourself, Neve.
I would say, you know, once you have a good talent in your company, how can you retain that? Like what benefits can you add to them that they will stay around and not be swayed to join another company?
It's a great question, and I think it's something that everyone's you know, really considering at the moment with remote working. It's something that's changing because traditionally, you know, creating a great culture is the way to retain staff, but obviously now that we have a hybrid model, culture is something that's cropping up. How do we continue to create that culture when maybe the workforce aren't there a lot of the time? So for me, it's really listening to the staff and actually understanding what people want. So I know version 1 do great employee engagement surveys, and, you know, larger organizations would do that. For ours, we're smaller. We talk, you know, we talk to each other and we ask people, you know, are you happy? What could we be doing differently? And really, it's just listening to your staff, I think, is the key thing, and catching on to anything that's going to make people, you know, leave essentially, you know, and fixing those problems.
100%. Well, Lorna, then obviously that's been mentioned then, obviously about employee surveys and obviously that engagement piece. How important is your feedback from your employees to kind of retain them? Like, it must be quite challenging as well with people advertising for jobs all the time.
Yeah, it is massive. Like just what Claire has said, the culture piece is so important now in organizations. And I think in the tech sector, we've always had talented people who question whether they're, you know, working with the latest technologies and the latest skills and all the rest. And that hasn't gone away. But what I've seen more of now is people in version 1 and in other organizations as well, starting to question about what their impact is, and how big an impact are they actually having, and how big of a say do they have in the organization that they work for. So the staff engagement piece is really, really important for us, because that's our way on a quarterly basis of being able to take feedback and being able to improve constantly. Not just the kind of role that they have and the kind of projects that they work on and the skills that they learn, but also about what makes it an even better experience for them in the organization. So a lot of the staff engagement that we do, we have the social piece, but now the community piece is even more important for us. It's about enabling us or the organization to be able to give back to the communities. So people start to feel they belong to version 1, but they get the sense of purpose as well. And it's not just internally in the organization, but it's how we can use that as a vehicle out into the communities as well.
Good stuff. I mean, it reminds me obviously of some research I've read recently, which is millennials and Gen Z, they're not necessarily, yes, they love salaries and they love wages, but one of the things that drives them the most is that social purpose, that impact. Claire, London, is that the same thing? Hello, London.
Hello.
Nice to see you, Claire, as well. How important is that? I mean, obviously, apart from the fact that you seem to kind of be traveling every week and you're working remotely all the time as well, like, how important is that flexibility for employees, but also that mission? Are you finding that is important in London as well?
Very much so. So mission-wise for early careers is exceptionally important, more important than I've ever seen it before. If I think back to 20 years ago, I was really grateful if I could work somewhere where they'd give me a pen and a book and maybe a t-shirt. Now, candidates want so much more. What I'm also seeing is career shifters, people that have, I find that COVID has given a lot of people some kind of awakening. You know, maybe they weren't like really unhappy before in their roles, or they weren't exceptionally happy. They were kind of like midway. What the pandemic has done is it's taken away so many distractions from people. So they've been faced with, crikes, most of my day is filled with my job. Actually, kind of, it's okay, but it's not really giving me enough. And that's led to a wave of people who perhaps before would never have realized that they weren't really that unhappy in their jobs, seeking jobs with a lot more purpose.
Really. And obviously then, Dave, from a US perspective, are you finding that conversation that we're having in the UK and Ireland is the same in the US? And what other factors perhaps are kind of impacting on recruitment and retention over there?
I think it's a lot of the issues that have been brought up already. The social equality, the statement of, I want to belong in a place that actually wants me. There's a large movement, you know, for these employee resource groups to kind of coalesce around social transformation goals. You know, how can we help the folks that are less fortunate? You know, real quick shout out to Carol Rossborough and the work that Esther's been doing. Very, very similar style, where you're calling to a certain subset of your employees that are willing to give, but they've never had the opportunity to give in a way that's meaningful to them. And so something like Esther being integrated into kind of corporate land, you know, especially for Dell, where we're a very large multinational. I think the hybrid work has certainly changed. It's changed my lifestyle. You know, I float between, I live in Ireland and I live in the United States, right? So I have both, you know, I'm working from both locations. I have accommodations that have to be made in both locations based on data access, which is a huge thing. Privacy, the way I interact with different groups in different regions of the world. My team is global as well, from Shanghai to Cairo to Tel Aviv to Ireland as well. So there's a lot of these different, we're starting to be exposed to new people in our organization that perhaps we never were exposed to before. Mm-hmm. It's been opened up, especially in the United States, where contracted work is not really a thing. We have contractors per se, but you know, gainful employment is generally at will. We're starting to see folks to the point about job availability on market, starting to pick and choose very, very carefully where they want to live, and then who has the opportunity to remote work in that location. So much has been said about the exodus from San Francisco. It's maybe true, maybe not, but folks are realizing that they don't have to pay that lifestyle anymore to do the exact same job. So they're willing to go, let's say, more country. They're willing to go to a place like Texas or Oklahoma or middle America, if you will, right? Where lifestyle is a lot more affordable, where they can still accomplish everything that they wanted to do. I was told back when I started remote working, all I needed was an internet connection and an airport. And you know, that holds true to this day. I mean, that's what I need. So I can live in the Midlands of Ireland, which is where we're living now. And as long as I can get into Dublin, I'm pretty good, you know, and internet's good. So the options are there. And I think the counterbalance from the corporate side, if I may, just for a second, is the idea of inflation-based or location-based pay is starting to subtly change as well. No longer will you enforce to me that I will make less in a location based on the exact same job performance I did before. And it has to be taken into account now, because if I am able to leave my current place of employment and move to another place that satisfies that need of lifestyle, of belongingness, of social transformation, social action, then perhaps that is something that I am willing to give up, you know, one location, because there is a plethora of jobs in the market within, especially within the tech sector. So those are comments from stateside.
And Ollie, tell us about Tech Nation's role in the UK Global Talent Visa and what type of visas exist for companies to find global tech talent.
Yeah, afternoon, everybody. Really interesting to hear what everyone said so far. From a Tech Nation involvement perspective, the Global Talent Visa is what it's officially known as, and there's actually lots of routes people can come into the UK on it, whether it's in different sectors, whether it's the arts, whether it's through engineering, whether it's through academia, if you like, and each one of those has its own endorsing body. And so for anything that comes under the broad umbrella of digital technology, and that is really kind of all consuming at the moment, that's where Tech Nation's involved. And so each route has a kind of sole endorsing body. So at the moment, I would say we're kind of the closest thing to the UK's tech visa is probably kind of what this operates as. And so to be able to get the visa, you have to get an endorsement from Tech Nation. So that's kind of where we sit with it. It's still a relatively kind of unknown and certainly underused, I think, visa option. It's not for everybody. It is designed for those who are highly skilled or have already kind of shown a real high potential to be, you know, significantly contributing in the tech sector. And so putting that on people's kind of radar as an option from both an individual and a kind of employer side of things is one of the reasons I'm here today, right, to really let you guys know. But the UK is getting slowly better, I think, in terms of the other options people have if you're international talent, however you might have arrived here, or if you're looking to arrive, and building out that kind of, there's different options that you have. So you've got what we're involved with. The most typical one still is the kind of, used to be called tier 2. It's now known as the skilled worker visa. That's still the most typical one. If you are a company and you're looking at it, it makes total sense to apply for a license, whether you're trying to bring in 1 or 2 in a year, or whether you're trying to bring in multiples of that. I definitely would recommend to do so. And that's, you know, I don't want to go around the topic of Brexit too much, but I think it's one of the things that's changed in a positive way is that actually the route has broadened and is more accessible now for everyone than it might have been maybe more than 12 months ago, which I think is a positive. You've got other options, which are kind of the ICT visa. It's a kind of company transfer. So if you've got a company that is already based over in the US, for example, and wants to kind of put some feet on the ground in Belfast, for example, that's a great option to kind of get your employee number 1 there. So, and I think the final one I'd say is Claire mentioned around kind of your early talent, your graduates. I think something that's also been reintroduced in a new form is the graduate visa. So in a similar way to the visa we operate, really, I think for 2 years, you've basically got complete carte blanche, really, and kind of flexibility to go and work where you'd like to in your first couple of years after graduating. So it's a great route for the UK now to get that great talents coming from everywhere around the world into our tech companies. That's a great kind of, hey, check it out, come and stay here for a bit longer and see what our tech scene's about before you look at other options after that. So it's getting better. And if I may, for the last point, in terms of a new visa to put on people's radar, is something that was announced, you might have heard it in different clippings, is a scale-up visa that's coming out, I think will be live from April. And the idea, particularly from a tech sector side of things, and it came from a fintech view, but it's going to be broader, I believe, is that you've got these really fast scaling companies. It sounds very much in Northern Ireland, right? You've got a huge companies, lots of hires being made right now. But then it generally might take 2, 3, 4, maybe longer months sometimes to actually get the visa approved and get people actually working and helping to scale these companies. The idea for this new visa is that it's going to fast track that process. So for those companies that can demonstrate that they're scaling, whether that's through kind of turnover or for kind of people hiring, that should be quicker. I don't know how much quicker, but it will be quicker. So things are getting better in that respect too.
Perfect. Okay, well, we're back in the room, and I'm going to ask Claire and then Lorna a question on all of that, because I think there's quite a lot to take in. The scale-up visa, I mean, how much do you guys have to look at visas and maybe talent, whether it's remote talent for a company in Northern Ireland and then working completely remote, and also the visa side? Is that something that companies are quite adaptive to or approachable to, or do they still like to find their talent and be physically based within Northern Ireland?
I think it's a changing picture. I think Ollie's information there is actually really interesting for a lot of the companies here in Northern Ireland that I don't think actually know a lot of that stuff still, you know. There's still a real hesitation around visas, I find, with companies that, you know, they think this is an administrative nightmare that I just don't want to go near. I'll just avoid it at all costs. Because I think in the past it has been really quite difficult, and you know, a lot of investment potentially for then the candidate to maybe never join them in the end, and you know, there's maybe a few £1,000 spent there that, you know, never got utilised. So, but it, you know, it does seem actually that one positive outcome of Brexit is that the whole visa, you know, application process is actually simplified and has opened up to the whole world. So I have been having chats with companies recently about this. Invest and I are doing a bit of work around it as well to try and get the word out, that it's not actually that difficult now to get your license and then, you know, start going through the process. So there's a bit of work I believe going on in Invest and I as well about sort of helping potentially fund some of this as well. So it is a changing picture, but it's definitely, you know, it's a no-brainer, to be honest. I think everyone should be, you know, hearing what Ollie had to say today and having a look at their own processes and get the ball rolling.
Ollie's on speed dial after this, I think. So I was going to actually I was going to follow up on that and say thank you to the audience, because we're getting, this phone is buzzing. So if anyone thinks, why is he looking at his phone? It's because the audience who are in the room here are WhatsApping questions. So we're trying to have that blended approach. It's like Zoom, but in real life. So obviously there's a couple of questions that I'm going to lead on to after that. But Lorna, from your perspective, where are you finding talent from right now? And do you consider remote workers and that international piece? Is that something that would just be for senior hires, or?
Yeah, so maybe start with where we're getting the talent from right now. Like, we've been very lucky in version 1 in NI because we've got a referral scheme that seems to have always worked really well. So we're very reliant on people, our own staff, referring ex-colleagues in, or members of their family, or the sons, daughters that have just come out of college. So it's worked really well for us, and it's helped to actually build the culture in the organization as well, because we're bringing like-minded people in that people have worked with and know that they'll be an automatic fit for version 1. So we've been very lucky in that respect. I think from an international perspective, it's not something that we shy away from. We in NI alone, we would have quite a number of tier 2 sponsorships that we've done over the years. But I think for us in NI, we would much prefer to have people across Northern Ireland working for us remotely. It can be hybrid, or you can be in the office, whatever. And I think that's the one thing about COVID that has been absolutely brilliant, is that location doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter where you live. And in Northern Ireland, you know, just even myself, I moved from Fermanagh to Belfast because I knew I'd never get a real job in tech if I didn't do that. But that doesn't need to be the case anymore. You can live wherever you want in Northern Ireland, or in the UK, or in the world, and still be employed by someone like version 1. And I think that's one of the big pluses that's come out of the COVID for us.
What is the one job skill that you would love applicants to have right now?
That's a really tough one.
Just pick one.
I think for us, the one for me that is really, really important is the teamwork. You know, being a team player, wanting to be part of a team, wanting to grow a team. We're still quite small in NI. We're just over 400 people, and I love to see people collaborating, and those skill sets, while some people take them for granted, they're not. You get a lot of people who are quite happy to work in isolation on their own, which is fantastic. But for me, it's the collaboration. It's that skill set of being able to listen to other people in your team, to take on board their opinions, to be able to express your own opinion, and to be able to work together as a team.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it reminds me of some of the stuff I do in school as well with Young Enterprise. And thank you, they're the sponsors. So that was for this session. So it's nice that I've mentioned them actually, but for no other reason. But one of the things that we have to talk to kids about in schools is soft skills, because an example of that might be that they don't even feel comfortable because of the way that they communicate through phones, just by WhatsApp or whatever, or Instagram or TikTok. Even answering a phone can be quite challenging because they're not used to that. Claire, is that something that you're finding in London as well? And I can see you're kind of laughing away there. Is that something that's quite typical as well?
Yeah, it is. I have a starter sort of say to me, Claire, can you really make sure that they will pick up the phone? I need people that will pick up the phone, that they know what a phone is when it rings. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And it is something that you have to talk through with, you know, early careers. And, you know, are you happy to pick up the phone? And if you get a bit of a stumble, you're like, yeah, okay, this really isn't going to work. But yes, absolutely, it's an issue.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to just give a quick shout out to Leon, who's in the room right now, actually. And he's our job start, actually. And he started yesterday remotely. But we said, come down to Belfast, no other objective, but just sit in the audience, soak in what we do at Starticus. We'll talk about what you're going to do after that. But it's all going to be good. Dave, don't be laughing at the top of the screen. You know I'm going to be a good person. But I just wanted to shout out Leon and say, Leon, thank you for joining us. It's about showing respect to your employees as well, isn't it? Like, obviously leading on to that, whether it's the first person that's entered the organization or the last and whatever level. Do you find that that's a shift in pattern as well, that we are showing more respect to people because otherwise we'll lose them?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for us, we've taken on so many new people during COVID. The onboarding process was so important for us, that it's that sense of belonging the moment that they walk through the door, and they'll only get that from really engaging and people engaging with them. So one of the things that we've done in NI is, you know, the onboarding is getting managers, getting even people that they won't even work with on day one, to reach out to them and welcome them into the organization to make sure that they're okay. We set up a WhatsApp group as well during COVID called Core Blimey, and everybody is welcome to that as well, even all the new starters. And that was a great way for people to informally meet each other, and, you know, sharing jokes and silly pictures and photos and stuff. But it was a great way to build that sense of belonging from day one, and that sense of respect as well.
Totally. I've got a question here from the audience, and then Neve, I'll pass over to yourself. Claire, I'm going to ask this one. Claire Northern Ireland, not Claire London.
Too many Claires.
Sorry. Dave, I'm going to also kind of think about this from a London, from a US perspective straight after, if that's cool. The question is, and this is where I've got to press my PIN number again. Oh my goodness. Attracting the talent seems to be one challenge. How do you then combat new hires, then jumping ship when a new slightly higher paid opportunity comes onto the market? What do you do there?
I mean, again, you know, salary inflation is a bit of an issue at the moment. You know, not all companies can compete sometimes. So again, you've got to look at the other things that you can provide. That's not just monetary value. So I think it's what Lauren and I have been talking about there. You know, it's a culture that people want to stay in. We've got good retention rates in Northern Ireland, actually, compared to the other locations. And I think we do have, you know, because of our small community type vibe, you know, everyone knows everyone and tends to be quite a nice, friendly environment. So for me, again, it's the culture part. It's feeling like you belong to something, you know, that it's not all about the money. And I do think, you know, that was referenced earlier, you know, the social side is becoming more and more important now. You know, if you're giving back to the community, or there's a tech for good, you know, element to your company, or something that's actually, you know, more important than money. I sound a little bit on my high horse here, but you know, if there's things that your company does that are more important than cold hard cash, I mean, that's valuable to people, and I think you've got to focus on these things.
Totally. Neve, before I pass over to yourself, Dave, I'm going to ask you, like in the US, is there any initiatives that you're seeing in big organizations or small organizations using to maintain staff? Anything that we wouldn't maybe know about over here, or you think is quite fresh?
I think that in general, we have the same wage discussions constantly, right? You can see it on Twitter, you can see it on, the news where, restaurants or retail are not able to retain people because the livable wage has changed. That high watermark, if you will, or low watermark, depending on which way you look at it, has changed. And so I think there's a lot of that going on right now, and it's good. It's an agitation for a purpose. We need to respect the right of people and the ability of people to work, regardless of what the employment situation is. For large companies, just to echo Claire in Northern Ireland, the idea is very much around culture. It's really about how I fit into this place in this world. And the opportunities that are afforded to me at a good company, and I'll speak on Dell's behalf right now about this, we try our damnedest, if you will, to ensure that that you have a place that you can fit within a resource group. If you have an idea, this is something that you can go and percolate out and you can kind of chase it down. Yeah, we do have the initial hire and then quickly leave type process. It just happens. Churn is the reality of things. But the folks that stick with it, that are willing to kind of embrace that, more than just the money kind of concept, are, we find them to be extremely valuable, and that's what we continue to support there. So.
Perfect. Ollie, have you seen any companies that have any innovative or interesting strategies in bringing in new tech talent?
Oh, great question. I suppose there's lots. Short answer is yes. I'll give some examples of that. There's some from different perspectives when it comes to remote. I think there's some more. I think there's been similar topics already today here, right? About how people will hire remotely, and I think that's really fundamentally changed a lot of hiring processes. I'll also share on a different hat. I want to do a lot around neurodiversity, and I think there's lots of really interesting approaches to how do we really kind of hire and interview for and put a process together that really focuses on what the core of the job is. And I think at times we've not always had that in the tech sector and other sectors too. So I would look at, it's not necessarily completely new, but I think is really interesting from a tech side of things is a platform, say like HackerJob, which is really then putting together, it kind of streamlines and fast tracks some of the processes of what do we actually need this person to do, particularly in technical roles, and kind of maps that towards what are the different tech stacks that are needed. How can you kind of demonstrate whether or not you are effective at building a certain amount of code or whatever. I think it's probably easier in that kind of stuff. It's a bit more binary. Is this good web development? Is this not good development? But if people are able to kind of hit certain marks, then actually you kind of fast track a lot of what would otherwise be real emphasis on the soft skills that people typically assess in interviews. And actually, particularly maybe in technical roles, in some roles, absolutely it's needed, but in some it's not. And I think we can feel foul at times of kind of copy and pasting some parts of job descriptions and things in interviews actually aren't that important to someone doing the job well or not. So I really like their approach of going, actually, let's strip this away. What does someone doing this job well look like? And how can we best test that? So whether it's that kind of stuff, and I think it can lead to kind of your informal chats after that, or work trials in some ways can work. In some ways, I know absolutely not. But I think that's a really fresh approach for me. I'd recommend looking at HackerJob as a kind of a way of revisiting, actually, does our interview process work for who we're after?
Yeah, I was going to then lead on to, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because David, who's in the audience here, I feel like a politician naming people by first name, by the way. It sounds like I'm trying to make them more personal, but they do exist here as well. David is from Belfast Met, so I should probably drop that in there as well. And you've kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask then Claire from London this question. Obviously, there's a lead on to that. Are human soft skills increasingly becoming as important as the technical skills in IT? So thinking of more the IT jobs rather than obviously the kind of marketing sales, are we looking at those skills as much now as well?
Hey, very much depends by company. Yeah, pretty much depends by company. I like what Ollie's saying. I see a lot more focus on neurodiversity as being important in the hiring process, and actually flexing between whether it's the tech skills or the soft skills that are more important. Yeah.
And that's because, and obviously you mentioned neurodiversity, because we're doing some work on that as part of a steering group in Northern Ireland. Neurodiversity is 1 in 10 of us. So within this audience, there are quite a few people that are neurodiverse. For those listening in at home, there are quite a few of us that are neurodiverse. So it's important that we make sure that we're not discriminating, but making sure that they are as included in the recruitment process. Obviously, from a Northern Ireland perspective, before we move on, is that something that we're now starting to be more aware of? Obviously, those things that we need to actually be aware of at the recruitment process. Claire, maybe yourself first.
Yeah, well, we work quite a bit with specialist turn, you know, and what we've done is, you know, present to them on sort of tips on what the interview will be like and that sort of thing, but also then feedback to our clients as to how to make the interview process fair, you know, and you know, not maybe miss out on neurodivergent talent because their process, you know, is really skewed and would put certain people off. So there's definitely, Specialist Turn is a great organization here doing some brilliant things and actually, you know, helping companies how to manage that process and make it fair.
Yeah, perfect. And obviously, Lorna, for yourself, do you look at talent coming in from a different angle depending on the person as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, just going back to the question David asked, for me and for the organization, soft skills is very important. Like, if Northern Ireland's a very small place in the tech sector, and when you get a CV in from an organization, you generally know the kind of skills and kind of projects and work that that person's doing. So you're automatically sort of already ticking that box. So it's about everything else that person will bring to your organization. So the soft skills for us is very important. In terms of the diversity bit, we've started to do a lot of work this year around our recruitment process, and really with that diversity piece in mind. And next year we will be doing a lot more work around the recruitment process to make sure that we are making it as easy as possible for everyone and anyone to be able to apply and to come through that process and to come through it as smoothly as possible and to be able to present themselves in such a way that we can see exactly what they're going to be bringing to the organization.
Perfect, good stuff. And obviously, I should shout out to Patrick Cutcliffe, who's in the audience, who actually had to leave Northern Ireland to do something that he wanted to do, which was shape obviously people's careers in a digital capacity. He's now supporting quite a few underserved communities in Manchester. He's here with us today, which is great, but he's doing that remotely. Thank you, Patrick. But he's supporting female talent in the Manchester area, making sure that they are upskilled so that they can go and work in the workforce quickly within like digital marketing and digital skills. And it's great that we are able to do that remotely. And then someone like Patrick can be here as much as he's going to go out there and talk to some chaps and ladies in Manchester. So that's the way the world is now. And before we look too internal, and obviously I didn't want to mention the B word, and it's not Boris, it was Brexit. I wanted to obviously touch on the fact that, Ollie, we are, I hope, trying to be more inclusive of when someone comes to the UK, they feel part of that tech sector. So a final word on what you're doing, obviously, on that onboarding kind of culture piece with that as well, with the visas.
Yeah, thanks, Al. And I think it is something we just have to really, I suppose, address. And I think it's one of those, rightly or wrongly, from an external standpoint, it's one of the things that's been in the headlines when it comes to anything UK related, right, over the last few years. So even when we've been speaking to people over the last couple of years about our visa routes, it's just something that comes up. You know, actually, is it as diverse as you say? Is it actually still inclusive? Is it a good time to come along? And so I think we still have to be quite proactive to really address that and say, you can go through so many different cities and regions in the UK and to show how wonderfully, genuinely diverse and inclusive they are. London is an incredibly global city, but there's so much more to the UK than just London. I can say that being a Londoner, right? So it's about kind of giving people the view of all the different regions that we've got. And so I think we do, especially when we're hiring internationally, have to make that point, I think, just to kind of effectively reassure people and how we do that. We're looking at it from a Tech Nation side of things in terms of the tech sector. We've had just over a few thousand now who've come through our visa over the last 4 or 5 years. And we get a lot of the similar feedback, which is, this is not a kind of UK specific challenge, but moving to any country, right, is a big challenge. And especially if you're moving without any kind of friends or many networks in the country you're moving to, beyond just maybe colleagues or a partner or family. So I think there's lots more we can be doing. And we actually just, in a very case of good timing, we actually launched something ourselves just last week, which is called Thrive. It's an onboarding program. And we're trying to, so it's quite personal driven, trying to support people have the best possible start in the UK and any region of the UK. So helping them to actually understand where they could be living. For us, we get a lot of people coming to the visa and they think UK, oh, I'm just going to move to London then. I think that's another kind of thing around the location we've spoken about, where it's definitely been escalated through COVID, but I think we're going there anyway, is that you can work from anywhere. And so, but really making that point, anyone across the UK, whether it's Belfast, Northern Ireland, Manchester's got a really fast growing tech scene, Edinburgh, Bristol, these are other places that are just as great as London, depending on what you're looking for. So giving people access to that and that view, and then really kind of fast tracking their view of how do you find a community? Where are people in the UK when you want to make that network beyond just colleagues? What are the cultural norms? NHS sounds great. How do I access it? Who's going to tell you that? You know, beyond just Googling it and other search engines, right? Same for taxes, all that kind of stuff, and giving people that information, we're really kind of keen on doing. But for us, we've had it from an employer perspective, right? It can, about where you land, that first few months, if it can really be the make or break about whether or not someone turns around in a year or two's time and leaves. You know, we've spoken about how do you retain talent from an employer perspective. Well, if their experience in the country they're based in is a bit naff, then they're going to go anyway, and you could be a great employer or not. That actually could be quite a definitive point. So we're looking at it from a tech sector perspective and say there's just so much to be gained if we can kind of integrate people in a much more proactive way. So I suppose the plug is, if you're a founder, if you're a company listening to this and have some new hires joining in the next few months, please do reach out. It'd be great to see if we can get you guys on the program that we've got running. But I think hopefully it's a bit of a symbol about where we're going, that we want to show more than just in our words, we've got a visa route, but actually that's one of the ways we're trying to look at it and say, we really do value global talent when it comes. And I think it matters to us what their experience is when they get here. And so we're just trying to do more about that proactively.
Awesome. Ollie, that's the final word, apart from to say we're all right, really, aren't we? Like, obviously, if I was pitching Northern Ireland, I would say, I feel like it's the most inclusive place that you could be, but we don't hear that on the news. It's the friendliest place. I'm sorry, London. Dave will probably agree. Dave, you've been over to Northern Ireland loads of times. You know how
Ireland's my home, my friend. So I agree. More so than anything.
And like, once you come here, you don't want to leave, which means I've been here for 17 years and I've got 3 kids and they've got strong Derry accents, and there's nothing I can do about it now. But it is the best place in so many ways, and we just don't hear it. And I think we need to champion that, obviously, as every region would want to do, like Manchester or Bristol or wherever. And that's why we need tech leaders like Claire and Lorna here in Northern Ireland, who are driving that diversity piece as well, in terms of women in tech as well. So I just want to say, love you, Dave. Basically, Dave does every panel I ever ask him, whether it's bias in AI or something else. He's just like this knowledge bank. Claire, always great to have you with us. Ollie, you're a star. Thank you for always helping us. But in Northern Ireland, we've got 2 stars here, and I wanted just to have a round of applause, obviously, for Claire from Real Time and Lorna from Version and One as well. Thank you. Right, there you go. That was my little tearful moment. Neve, what's up next?
Okay, hold on, do I check here? Okay, so next we have the Startup Pitches competition, powered by the sponsors here are Clockwise Belfast and Ria's Ventures. There were 8 early stage tech startups from the island of Ireland with relevance to future work, workplace and work space solutions will have the opportunity to compete for a cash prize of £1,500.
Not 1.5 million.
No.
Just keep that in the back of your head.
I've changed it to the 1,500.
Unless Lorna is putting in the extra cash, but we will. No, she's not. So next up, we've got pitches from Knowledge Work and Sonar Move, and they're both awesome. So thank you very much for pitching. We'll be back after the 2 pitches. Thank you.
I'm Paul O'Neill, one of the co-founders of Knowledge Work. Globally, there are over 1 billion knowledge workers today, And knowledge work is work of the head versus work of the hands. And it's common in financial services, insurance, legal, and public sectors. COVID has massively accelerated change in how we work, with hybrid set to become the new norm. But knowledge work has an invisibility problem, which makes it really difficult to manage. How to deal with change in business is usually through a combination of people, process, and technology. But when you look at this picture, you realize how we do process today is broken. It's too complex, relying on technical staff. It's too time consuming, often taking weeks or months, and it's not owned by business people. So an absence of process drives ad hoc work, which in turn fuels an excess in emails, meetings, and ultimately workload. And there's one statistic which suggests that up to 60% of work is work about work. But there are real human consequences of how we work today. For example, burnout is caused by an unsustainable workload coupled with a perceived lack of control. So at Knowledge Work, we're rethinking how to do process to make it accessible to business people and faster in hours, not weeks or months. To explain our new approach to work mapping, we use this sample customer journey. By focusing on outcomes rather than activities, it represents a service as a type of value chain. And ultimately, through this methodology, we want to create the Google Maps for work. Our proposition consists of our work mapping methodology, which is part of our differentiation, together with the underpinning technology to drive this. Co-founding team, of which there are 3 members, process is our area of expertise within the broader enterprise software market. Personally, I've been working in this space for over 15 years, working across multiple roles. Our revenue is planned on a B2B SaaS model. Final word about the markets, and it is very competitive. How organizations work is addressed by a range of different overlapping technologies, with horizontal technologies and vertical solutions, and this is just a subset. I've included some market valuations as a guide, with process mapping at $500 million and intelligent automation at $15 billion annually. And highlighting just 2 of those market segments, we were recently included in an analyst report on process mining for our work mapping approach, which for digital workplace, you can see our solution deployed within the context of Microsoft Teams, which itself has 150 million daily active users. And if I could finish with just one request, we'd really love to speak with organizations who are interested in exploring a new way of mapping knowledge work. Thank you.
Hi, Paul and Naomi here. How different is your platform to say something like Lucid?
So Lucid, I think it's Lucid Chart, is that right?
Yeah.
So I think Lucid Chart, as I understand it, is really just a diagramming methodology. Okay. So I think the difference there is that you can't take those processes and actually execute them.
Because they call themselves a process mapping software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of similarity, is that we will map the processes, but actually then we will take them and allow them to be operated and managed, and ultimately to be optimized as well. So part of the future plans is to apply things like artificial intelligence, to do things like forecasting how much work people actually have on. Yeah. Which is so it's really there's value in the mapping, but it's being able to take it all the way through. That's the ultimate value in the platform.
Thank you.
I have a bit of a 3-part question. Forgive me for that. Number 1, is your customer enterprise SME? Number 2, what role in the organization is the customer? And the 3rd part is, how are you going to acquire them?
Okay. So I suppose my background is in enterprise software, so that's really selling to large organizations. I think in terms of the SME, I think that's a part of the market that's really underserved. Traditionally, this technology is so expensive, and perhaps where it takes so long to roll out, it's just not been available to SMEs. So I think there's a real underserved market there. Role, I think we would look to go both direct, but also through partners. There's I think a good opportunity to work with partners, particularly in repeatable use cases. And acquisition would be through outbound marketing to try to attract the clients. Obviously, as a horizontal technology, we would have to pick one vertical, one use case, something like that, and then actually try to repeat it just to rather than trying to be all things to all people. Does that answer, hopefully, those 3 parts?
Yes, Paul, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask what methods you will be using to reach and engage with your target audience?
So, at this point in time, we're really just getting into marketing. So I think it will be through, I suppose, really channels like LinkedIn, which is really where the kind of professional market will tend to be. We've kind of done a little bit of investigation on this, and we've advised that LinkedIn is probably the best place rather than things like Twitter and so on. But equally, part of the reason for engaging with people like analysts is that they're independent. So it's almost like an independent voice. They're a bit like influencers and social media is the equivalent in the enterprise software market. So that's kind of why we've gone down that route to an extent as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just clarifying, maybe I missed it, and apologies. So you're not live. Are you live now? Do you have customers?
No, at this point in time, we're still working on our software. So we secured a grant from TechStart earlier this year. So we've been using that to build our MVP. So probably over the next 2 to 3 months, we'll probably have our MVP ready to be able to roll out to prospects at that time.
Okay. And do you know how much you want to charge? Have you thought about your financials and the model?
Well, it's certainly B2B SaaS. In terms of pricing, that's a challenging one because in some respects, if we go after a horizontal large audience like the digital workplace, that will probably tend to be at a cheaper price point, whereas if you go vertical and things like the legal market, it's probably a much smaller audience, but there's a much higher value. So pricing, that's something we still have to work on.
Okay, good stuff. Well, let's get cracking then. Sitting for too long isn't good for you, but how many hours do you spend sitting each day? There are over 1 billion knowledge workers worldwide. Service workers typically sit for 10 to 12 hours every working day. Sonomove is going to change that. We'll help desk workers reduce their sedentary behavior by tracking activity and providing tailored feedback. Excessive sitting leads to reduced productivity and well-being and more sick leave. This is why many firms now provide their employees with sit-stand desks. Despite this, many of these height adjustable desks get used properly for about a week, then are left permanently in the seated position. Office workers don't like being the odd one out and standing on their own. They need regular reminders to stand and move to help them disrupt the sedentary status quo. Unfortunately, wrist-worn activity trackers cannot detect when the wearer is in a sitting or standing position. The solution is Sonomove. I'm a medical doctor researching sedentary behavior among desk workers. In autumn 2020, I conducted a study where participants wore accelerometers on their thigh 24/7 for a week. This is the gold standard for measuring sedentary time. In subsequent interviews, participants said that they changed their behavior to sit less and move more because they knew they were being observed. The problem is that most people just don't want to wear a device on their thigh. I then thought, what about putting a device on a sit-stand desk instead? This could detect when the user is sitting or standing without the inconvenience of having to wear something. I realized I needed some technical help, so I joined with Eamon, who has design and innovation expertise, and Chris, who has the software engineering know-how, and the Sonomove team was born. We were winners of the Catalyst Co-Founders 2021 cohort. We've conducted extensive user research to develop the Sonomove concept, which will use hardware and software in harmony to give desk users the tools they need to be more active at work. We'll use this to provide tailored, personalized feedback and reminders to desk users. They can track their progress and receive useful tips on being more active at work. In this storyboard, office staff are provided with new sit-stand desks. Some use the height adjustable desk for a short time, before all permanently reverting back to the seated position. This annoys the manager, who is fed up of staff being off sick due to musculoskeletal problems. With Sonomove, the employees are provided with education, motivation, prompts, and feedback to help them reduce their sitting time. Everyone's pleased, workers are feeling better, sick days are down, and productivity is up. We've now developed a hardware device which can be fitted to all the main types of sit-stand desks. We're seeking further funding to develop the software, protect the IP, and begin testing a minimum viable product in early 2022. We've already identified willing early adopters in Belfast. We then plan to upscale from there using a business-to-business software as a service model. However, we are aware of the potential for other scalable growth models, such as direct-to-consumer and licensing to sit-stand desk manufacturers. We're creating an innovative, never-seen-before solution to improve the health and happiness of millions of people across the globe. Thank you for listening, and we would be delighted if you could help us in creating a movement to live better.
Richard, I'll go first on the question, if that's okay. This is a device that goes on the desk, correct?
Yes.
So with today, people not being in the office every single day, how do you account for people who don't have assigned desks?
Yeah, so probably with the COVID pandemic, things shifted to everybody working from home. Chances are the future of work will probably be a more of a hybrid model with maybe 2 or 3 days a week going into an office environment and maybe 2 days a week working from home. A lot of people have been buying their own sit-stand desks to use at home. I'm aware of a lot of colleagues that have done that. And so, you know, you can buy your own sit-stand desk for about £100. So if people are working from home, then they could use the same device at home or in the office.
Okay, so it's detachable.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard. I have a question. So this device can only be applied to adjustable desks, cannot be for normal desks.
No, it would only be used with height adjustable sit-stand desks. However, there has been a huge increase in use of height adjustable sit-stand desks due to the huge amounts of research that are coming out now about the harms of excessive, especially prolonged sedentary time. That's why I've been researching it from a medical background. I was particularly looking at sedentary time among general practitioners. However, the risks are the same across the general population. So in Denmark, for instance, it's a legal requirement for all employers to provide height adjustable sit-stand desks to workers who work behind desks for over 3 hours a day. So in Scandinavia, there's over 80% of desk workers then have them. So similar trends are being seen throughout the rest of the world now as well, which you can see just simply on a Google search review of uptake of sit-stand desks. Google searches for them have gone up very sharply over recent years.
So sorry, just to follow up on that, which markets, like in terms of geographical markets, are you targeting?
Well, worldwide, because there's knowledge service workers across the world. So and any of them, any desk-based worker anywhere in the world could use one of these devices.
Yeah.
Richard, can I just ask how the device would track if there are multiple users of the same desk? So if a company has, say, 5 users hot desking and rotating using the same desk, how the device would track between multiple users?
They would use their own login on the computer. I mean, in environments I've worked in, there's shared desks and shared computers, but people have their own login. So it would be the same principle. People would use their own login to then have their own data.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, at the moment, our hardware device is connecting via cable, but moving forward with future investment, hopefully everything would just be normal through Bluetooth, and the user would log in and they'd be able to do it quickly and efficiently.
Is there a way to factor in activity away from the desk? Say for instance, somebody goes out for lunch and then they get back and get pinged on the device, so they don't have to perhaps unnecessarily stand.
Well, I suppose there's a lot of people already have wearables, that will track step count and things like that. So it would probably feed in with data provided by those other sorts of wearables. So at the moment, no, it wouldn't be something that would it stays on the desk. It wouldn't be something that would go with an individual. But there are lots of other things that do that, but they're a different thing.
You mentioned logging in, and you mentioned beyond connecting, but via Bluetooth. Do you anticipate having challenges with corporates to being able to connect to their systems?
Chris, do you want to maybe take that one?
Yeah, well, that is something that we have to think about moving forward. It will be questions that we have to work with corporate and discuss. But at the point that we're at now, everyone and we have spoken to mentors and people like that, they haven't seen it to be a problem.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So this is the end of session 2. A massive thank you to the speakers, panelists, Young Enterprise NI, who is sponsoring this session. And I have to say the 2 startups that just pitched as well. They're both really kind of just at the about to launch stage, or obviously MVP stage, and it's really exciting to see early stage innovation in Northern Ireland and in different directions within the kind of HR and workplace environment. So thank you to the 2 startups. Finally, let's just end this session with music from Dark Tropics with Helen's Bay.
The tide stops lazily on the damp sand. It's cold, but we don't care. You shiver drawing axes upon my pan. You laugh while the wind entangles my hair. Here for one moment, it is only us, and the future both is here but gone. Don't fail me too, don't fail me too. The fear is in loving you. Don't fail me too, don't fail me too. The fear is in loving you. The fear is in loving you. The cave looms towering, a tempting end. To us, they are so small, too scared of turning pages, too broken to mend. Splintered heart, take it all. Here in this moment, we are so lost, and the future now is here but gone. Don't fail me too, don't fail me too. The fear is in loving you. Don't fail me too, don't fail me too. The fear is in loving you. The fear is in loving you. I'm not here alone. I'm not here alone. You fill me with hope, 'cause I'm not here alone.